Well, after 5 years of being fairly static on the Australian market, 2014 might turn out to be the year of the takeover. To find out how to make money out of this, I'm joined by James Kirby from Eureka Report. James, what should an investor think about when they can see a takeovers in the offing?
Hi Jackson. Well, obviously, if you can have a stock and it becomes a takeover bid, then you're going to make money. And in the situation, something like Warrnambool Butter last year, that stock absolutely, it multiplied in price once the bid was on the table. The issue, of course, is you need to buy stocks that in themselves are worthy investments. So should that takeover never come to pass, you have to have your basic fundamentals in place.
So what if a takeover has been offered, let's say, for instance, the David Jones takeover? Should an investor jump onto that stock straight away and then try and get involved in a bidding war?
Not necessarily. It depends. I mean, it really does depend on each situation. There is some statistics that show, you know, for every bid that is received, there will be further bids that follow on in the average. But in the case of David Jones, the specific issue there is who might rival Woolworths, for two reasons. One, Woolworths has put a very high price on David Jones, and secondly, Woolworths itself is a unique operation out of South Africa, and there is no other obvious contenders. That doesn't mean somebody may not pop out of the woodwork, but it seems to be unlikely at this point.
So the trick is then to find a company which might be bid for ultimately. One of the ones you've been looking at Eureka Report is Oil Search.
That's right. Well, what we're looking at is takeover targets. Oil Search is a very particular target and an obvious target because it's has become now one of our great gas companies. Its majority of its operations are in PNG. The gas situation in PNG is a global play, and all the global players are in there. And sooner or later, Woodside or another global company may go for Oil Search. Woodside is the predator that's most obvious at the moment, and Woodside has increasingly got a strong position with the strengthening share price.
Another one you looked at, and you talked about Warrnambool Cheese and Butter, one of the bidders for that was Bega Cheese. That one looks attractive too, you think?
It does. Bega's one of the main dairy players left standing, if you like, after that amazing battle for Warrnambool Butter. And Bega itself got a great lift out of its activity within the play, which ultimately, of course, Saputo of Canada took Warrnambool Butter. But what happened was a whole range of players from around the world got involved, and we realised that in the Australian dairy sector, a listed company can have immense overseas attraction. This is exactly where Bega sits right now. The issue with Bega and other takeover targets sometimes is their PE starts to run pretty high, and in the case of Bega, it is into the high teens. That's
an interesting one, of course, because there are very few dairy players left to buy all around the world, and there are lots of international companies looking to tap into that drive into Asia. Now, another company which is in the sort of agri sector is Treasury Wines. They've got a big profile in China as well. That struggled for a long time, but it could make it vulnerable, right?
It could. In fact, its vulnerability improves by the day because the performance continues to deteriorate. Now, it does have a new CEO, and indeed the opportunity is there to turn it around, but this company has disappointed consistently and sequentially in recent times. It has magnificent layer of brands. It has Penfolds, of course, which has had some good publicity recently, Penfolds Grange, but it also has Rosemont and a whole string of well-known household brand wines. It's unique in that it is our biggest listed wine company. It sits there as a takeover target, and certainly if someone is going to make a move, Pernod Ricard, one of the big players around the world, it would most likely be in the next few months.
But certainly the key there, of course, as you say, is that you need to make sure that the stock you're buying is a valuable stock in the first place, rather than just trying to get on speculative takeover bids.
Exactly, that the fundamentals are in place, and in each of these three, I think the fundamentals are there.
One to watch. James Kirby, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jackson.